Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delays. We were having some technical difficulties on our side. I hope everyone is doing well. We'll give it a couple of minutes to get started, just one more minute, and then we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to pause the recording until then. Thank you again for joining. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join our webinar. This is Kaustubh Jagtap or KJ. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at SafeBreach. I wanted you to take the time. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to attend our interactive session. Before we get started, just a reminder that this session is being recorded and will be shared with all the participants and the attendees after the webinar is complete. Additionally, it will also be available on our website as well as our YouTube channel. At any given point of time, if you have any questions about the content that we've shared today or in general about the product or SafeBreach, please use the Q&A function that Zoom webinar offers, and that way we can get to all of your questions after the demo section is complete. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Since you're in a SafeBreach webinar, just a brief background about us. The SafeBreach platform provides security teams with a holistic point of view that ties directly into your business risk. And this allows us, or this enables security teams, or this allows us to provide you with a way to replicate the hacker's mindset so that you can continuously validate your security controls and validate their efficacy. We help you understand what your attack surface looks like. We have more than 30,000 attacks that are constantly being updated in the platform. We are the only BAS vendor that offers 24-hour SLA on US CERT alerts, as well as FBI flash and other key pertinent threats. And a key part of that is what we're going to cover today in our webinar. We were the only BAS vendor that provided super comprehensive coverage for the latest Cisco breach methods, in addition to other, important breaches that we've talked about. We have a very robust SafeBreach Labs research team that shares their results with the wider cybersecurity community. And our original research is constantly presented and published in various industry conferences, including Black Hat and RSA and DEF CON as well. And then today's speaker is, in addition to me, is one of our rockstar product managers, Ohad. He's just 22 years old, and he started his career in the Israeli Defense Forces as a cybersecurity analyst. And since joining SafeBreach, he has made a huge mark on our product team, and you'll be hearing from him later today. So quickly going in and getting started, I just gave you a brief overview of what SafeBreach is. We're going to quickly cover, why it matters protecting against latest threats, what kind of powers us, the SafeBreach Labs, and what is our SLA. Then Ohad will quickly walk you through how we actually implement that SLA and how it can actually help you with protecting your organization against the latest threats. So why does it really matter protecting your organization against latest threats? Obviously everybody knows and everybody talks about it. The threat landscape is volatile and constantly evolving. But what does that really mean? It means that threat actors can change one small thing in their attack, and it could turn into a completely different attack. And that could easily bypass everything you have against that attacker, and the threat can easily bypass the controls and get access to your crown jewels. So in order to prevent that, or in order to avoid such a situation where even a small change can potentially affect your security posture or your readiness against threats, organizations need to be nimble. They need to be quick-footed. They need to have the ability to quickly understand the threat before it becomes a widespread challenge. They need to be promptly and rapidly be able to test against that threat. And they need to have the ability that once I'm able to test my defenses against the latest threat or the change in an existing threat that makes it a new threat, what kind of gaps and misconfigurations are present in my organization, so that I can fix them before an attacker discovers them. And by automating this process, by just this testing rapidly against the newer threats, you can get almost instantly, as soon as the test is complete, and an automated or a rapid way to understand how prepared are you against this threat or anything that might pop up. So that kind of gives you an overall understanding of where you stand against today's evolving threat landscape, because you're testing against what's pertinent at this point. And then this also gives you a good ability, once you've understood your preparedness, it gives you a great way to refine or even create brand new remediation and response processes. And again, as all of this, why does this all matter? Because it gives you an opportunity to prepare and be ready before a real attacker is going to go wreak havoc, like Log4j or any other latest threat. So what does SafeBreach, how can SafeBreach help you with this? And I'm going to go into what kind of drives us, but just on the surface, as to the product itself, we offer multiple ways for you to actually go ahead and validate your organizational defenses against the latest threats or the latest attackers. So I talked about how SafeBreach is the only vendor that has a 24-hour SLA to include attacks that allow you to validate your organizational defenses. In the 24-hour SLA pertains to any actionable intel or IOCs or TTPs that come in from US cert alerts, FBI flash, or anywhere else that is more pertinent. Like, for example, you could have a Australian cert, or you could have a Canadian cert, or anything else. Anything that makes a big wave in the threat landscape, we provide coverage for that, guaranteed under 24 hours. You can test your defenses against it. So how can you do that? We have a multitude of ways. You can easily go into our 30,000 plus strong playbook. You can individually choose attacks, or as you can see over here, we provide scenarios which have all of these attacks encapsulated within a scenario. These are, range of attacks that that cover the TTPs and IOCs that the threat actor might be using. These are exactly identical to what you might actually see as listed in the US cert or FBI flash. They encapsulate all of these things. You can just hit run and easily run that entire scenario to validate your readiness against that threat. Or you can even go to our known threats report, basically helping you understand, what this threat is, what could be the risk factors. And again, this is another way to run simulations from the report section as well. Additionally, everybody talks about the MITRE attack framework, and a lot of these new IOCs and TTPs are included in the MITRE framework. But if you need to understand what your exposure is as compared to the MITRE attack framework, we give you an easy way to map your exposure against the MITRE framework to our MITRE heat map. So that's another way of quickly understanding where your gaps are and where you should focus your priorities in terms of remediation and response. Now, I talked a lot about our motivation. So what exactly kind of motivates us to kind of provide that 24-hour SLA for FBI flash and US cert alerts and other critical alerts? So here's just a timeline of what we've added, high-profile threats that we've added coverage for in the last 11 months. Now, this is we didn't just provide coverage for just these high-profile threats. We've added close to 6,000 attacks in just the last year. And these may not rise to the level of US cert or FBI flash, or maybe down the line, they could be encapsulated in an FBI flash or a US cert. And case in point, there was, this was from December 2021, but in November 2021, there was actually a FBI flash talking about Cuba ransomware. I think they had just begun observing that. But over time, over the period of a year, it became so prevalent that the US cert actually released a new cert in December of last year, just 2 months ago, that focuses on Cuba ransom. And we actually have 93 attacks in our playbook. We added a coverage to about 50 or 60 new IOCs and TTPs, but anyone who was a customer could have potentially had some degree of coverage against these threats, because we already had close to 20 or 30 attacks that were originally revealed in November of 2021 against Cuba ransomware, and we had a coverage for that. And all of this is our passion is primarily driven from the need and the want for us to give you the ability to test against the latest threats. We want you to be secure. And a big driver in that is our SafeBreach Lab or SafeBreach research team. And as I mentioned before, these are world-renowned researchers who not only provide us with content and coverage for the latest threats, but they also go ahead and do a lot of original research for which they generate attacks, and those attacks also provide you with a good amount of comprehensive coverage, including certain 0 days or even vulnerabilities, CVEs, against known security control vendors. So that's something that kind of drives us, and we've always consistently maintained this history of our coverage. So that's something that we are extremely proud of, and they help us drive to make us better with additional content coverage. Now, I know some of you may have maybe in the market for a BAS tool, but this is kind of just our general guideline that if you are in the market for a BAS tool, to choose a BAS tool for protecting against latest threats, you need to always ensure a few things. This is kind of like our attack checklist. That your BAS tool needs to provide coverage for all major attack surfaces, including network, email, cloud, DLP, all surfaces. There needs to be some sort of an SLA. It doesn't have to be 24, but it has to be some sort of an SLA that can give you reassurance that you can be ready against the latest threat as soon as it's discovered. It needs to have a good and varied and a much comprehensive coverage or attack playbook that can focus on all different types of attacks so that you're not pigeonholed into running just EDR attacks or email attacks. Need to be able to have the ability to customize attacks, including potentially your own threat intelligence feeds or providers. And you need to be able to run these at scale and continuously, not just, like a red team or pen testing. You just run them at once and then get the results and then just, think everything is great. But then something changes in the landscape and you're basically sitting ducks in water. So you need to be able to continuously adapt to the changing threat landscape. And we feel that this checklist can and provide you a good way of doing that. Now, enough from my side. I wanted to give Oha the chance to actually demonstrate all this cool stuff in our platform. So over to you, Oha.
Thank you very much, KJ. Yeah, so I'm going to demo now on how you can use SafeBreach in order to make sure you're protected against the latest threats. So as you can see now, this is the home page, and I can see the tests that are running right now. We support 5 tests to be run in parallel. So if there is a new cert, you can always just run it without always being worried about is a test going to stop or not. So I'm going to click and dive into the scenarios. As KJ said, these are aggregations of attacks based on a threat or a threat group or just a regular threat that you're interested in checking. And we create those by steps, which means that every step will contain attacks relevant to a specific action or an adversary's goal. And if we're talking about the latest threat, we always have on the top left our latest threat, which is in this case is the DPRK, like the Republic of Korea, malicious cyber activities. So I can click on that and I have other options. I can go to the known threat series and I can check out all the certs that we cover. We cover, as KJ said, US certs alerts and FBI flash alerts, but depends on requests. We can also cover different certs from different countries all over the world, because we know that it is very important to stay updated with the most imminent threat. So we also have the step 5, run the latest known threat, which is the next scenario I'm going to dive into. But the first one, DPRK, malicious cyber activities. So as you can see, every step has different types of attacks. The first step is around network infiltration. So the attacks that we can see here are both from an IOC perspective and from a behavioral perspective. So as you can read the cert, you can understand that the attackers used Maui ransomware. So we've added attack based on these IOCs that are related to the certs, but they were also utilizing log4j vulnerability in order to attack. So we also added those behaviors. So what you can do is like you can also test the IOCs and the behavioral attacks, which are the exploit or different MITRE TTPs that were used. As for reference, we can go to the alerts page of CISA and we can check out the alerts. If I'm going to enter the alert of the malicious cyber activities that were recently published, I can see all the information and I will be able to see both IOCs and TTPs. And there are also mitigation recommendations for the reference of the other source that we use. This is the FBI flash alerts page. And we can see also alerts that are aligned or different from the CISA. You can see here that the latest one was pretty much the same alert, but the one before that was Cuba ransomware. So we can check this out as well. So going into the scenarios page again, I can see that I talked about step 5. If I'm going to click on it, this one is always running the latest threat. What does it mean? It means that the steps are not configured by the threat specifically. It is filtered by filter based on the latest threat. So it means that if we update the latest known threat, it means that there is a new US cert alert. So maximum 24 hours after that, sometimes even less. The scenario is going to be updated automatically with those attacks. What does it mean? It means that if you're running this scenario periodically, which you can schedule here on top, it means that you can always stay updated with the latest threat. So using this scenario on a daily basis, weekly basis, depends on your concern around those threats, can be very useful because it doesn't even require setting the scenario to start immediately. And like, as you know, the cert alerts, they always come up on a Friday. So in order to not ruin Fridays, you can schedule this scenario.
Or a major holiday, or around a major holiday, because they know that people are going to be busy.
It's always on the holiday. Yeah. Yeah, so we've created this scenario that is being filtered automatically based on the latest cert. I can show you that you can also set this filter to be filtered based on latest 2 known threats or 3. So you can have a more robust scenario around the latest threats as a group. This can be changed very easily, and thus you can be updated with new content that is the most imminent content. Okay, so another thing about the US cert alerts, it always creates lots of urgency, and always I know that security teams have to report to managements or to the CISO. So what we've created is the known threat series report. I can choose the threat that I'm interested in. So I'm going to take Cuba ransomware, and then I can see a report being generated immediately. It can also be downloaded as a PDF file, but this is something that can be shared with management and can be created very easily. Just something to report and let the management know that you're either protected or not, and actions have to be taken. So you can see the results divided by steps. So for Cuba ransomware, I can see that I'm pretty good against infiltration, because lots of attacks were blocked, but still some attacks were not blocked. So it means that remediation actions have to take place. You can scroll down and see the results based on the different steps. What I'm going to do around remediation. So we created the insights. The insights can be looked at a bird's eye level, but can also be set to look at on a specific test. So I'm going to take the Cuba ransomware test again, and I'm going to see the aggregated insights. These are results based on the missed attacks. So I can see that we were able to transfer malware over different ports and protocols, which I can see over here, and I can see the hashes. What we created is an automatic query that can be just copy pasted into the security control, and will let you will give you visibility into logging those hashes. So I can choose my security control or download the raw data or the Sigma that is being supported by lots of security controls. And then just by copying and pasting it, I'm going to be able to at least identify if those hashes are being transferred within my network. Also, we identify instances of mismatching ports and protocols. And we identify hashes being loaded onto the machine. So what should be done is running the scenario periodically, downloading the report and sending it to management, and then taking the remediation actions using also the insights page. What we can also do is sometimes taking the remediation actions is not on the same team as the one that uses SafeBreach. So what we can do is we also created the insights summary report, which just gives a readable report around the threat with all the remediation recommendations that we have. So for example, Cuba ransomware, I'm going to stay on that line. We can see results over time. We see great upticks here. And then we have our remediation suggestions, the same aggregated data, but just in a readable report that I can just transfer to my peers or the security control owners in order to remediate the gaps that we found. So mostly this is the simple way using SafeBreach in order to test yourself against the latest known threats. As KJ said, I'm just going to repeat it, that we cover both CERT alerts, US CERT alerts, and FBI flash alerts within 24 hours. This is very important for us because we understand the urgency coming from security teams who see this threat on a chill Friday evening. So yeah, this is mostly it.
Thank you so much, Ohad. So I'm opening up the floor for questions. So please do share your questions with us. I do have a couple of questions to get us started. I did see them come in here. Do these attacks have real ransomware behaviors replicated, or just assume, what could the ransomware potentially do?
Oh, so what we do, if we're talking specifically about ransomware, we have a few attacks. First one will be just using those IOCs, just writing the malware to the disk or pre-executing it. Means that we actually download the malware and we load it into the memory in a safe way, of course. But also we simulate the behavior of the ransomware, checking. I can showcase our ransomware encryption attacks, taking just a random one, for example, Prestige ransomware. What we do is we look at the behavior of the ransomware, which encryption key is being used, which file extensions are included and which ones are excluded from the ransomware that wants to encrypt it. Also, the extension being appended to the encrypted files, and etc. So in this way, what we do is we both check the IOCs of the ransomware and we also mimic the behavior. Also around the CERT alert in general, what we do is we take those IOCs and we create IOC attacks out of those, meaning writing it to disk, transfer it on different ports and protocols. But the second thing is, which might be very interesting or even more interesting at times, is we simulate the behaviors. We see which TTPs were being used. We see the commands that were ran, and we also add those to the product.
Thank you so much, Ohad. The next question that we have here is, can new custom attacks be added? If we have a threat intelligence provider, can new custom attacks be added to these existing attacks, or can they be created?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we know a lot of security teams are using threat intelligence. So we have an integration for that. It can be set under environment, under integrations page, where you can see all of our integrations. So if I scroll down to threat intelligence, these are the ones we can support out of the box. What we can do afterwards is just by entering the threat intelligence page, I can see my new IOCs being published. if there are imminent threats that are specifically interesting for your team, we can use our templates in order to create attacks out of those. So I might need to choose a vendor here. But I'm just going to explain until it loads that this is a nice way to use. Oh, so might get an correct. So this is a way to see my IOCs that are relevant to my team and create attacks out of those. We understand the importance of always being updated with content and checking your security controls against specific threats. We also allow multiple customization options that are not threat intel. Any other question, KJ?
Yes, there's one last question that I see here. It's about, I think, to paraphrase it, these reports are great for technical users, but how can I share easy to understand reports with security executives or stakeholders?
So actually, we have a lot of complicated data. I understand that, but the non-threat series report is actually pretty simple. It just gives a quick overview about what the cert is about, just so management can understand. And then the steps are pretty simple. We describe those in a very high level, and then as you can enter, you see the scores being presented. So I'm going to go to the Cuba one that I showed a few minutes ago, and then you can just see a very understandable and readable pie chart that just describes the risks. So with also an explanation about what this step means to the adversary. So for propagation, we give a quick explanation about what moving laterally means and what we do in order to simulate an adversary trying to move laterally within the network. So this one is the simple one, actually. For more advanced analysis, you can always go to the simulation results page, where you can dive into the results and understand the logs that we write and everything, of course. But these logs will be for the more advanced teams that use the system on a daily basis and are not peers that are just interested to understand the security posture against a threat.
Thank you, Ohad. That's pretty much all the questions that we have for us during the webinar. So thank you again for everyone who took the time to attend, and I hope you learned something valuable. If you do need to get more information about how the platform works, or you'd like a more personalized, customized demo for your use cases, please reach out to us via our website, and we'll be more than happy to get something scheduled for you. That being said, thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.